Hi everyone. During the next few days, church folk are going to be spending quite a bit of time remembering people who died. Some Methodists are slightly uncomfortable with this. You see, the time of All Saints and remembrance can be a time which we're a bit suspicious of, because we think that perhaps in remembering saints, we're in some sense praying for the dead. And praying for the dead is something Methodists have, on the whole, tended to reject, because they say, well, those Christians are now with God and are therefore beyond the need of our prayers. Now, I think there's a great truth in this, but the danger is that in our determination to preserve what we understand to be the great truth of our faith, we are in some sense in danger of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, since it's our faith that God surrounds those who've gone before us with love. And therefore, I don't think we should forget those whom God loves. Those who've inspired us in the past can be a source of strength for us today. But where are the saints today? Of course, saints, especially the living variety, can sometimes be quite difficult to identify. We're all rightly suspicious of people who folks say are saints, perhaps because we're only too aware that the people who were proclaimed as saints may have clay feet and let their worshippers down. This is true whether the saints are we identify as secular or religious. At the extreme, we've only got to think about the people who praised, say, Jimmy Savile to the heavens for his charity work in the 1970s and 1980s. Of course, thankfully, relatively few individuals are quite as manipulative and malevolent as Jimmy Savile, but nevertheless, it does point out the difficulties that can arise when we put our heroes on a pedestal, whether they be actors or footballers or television personalities, or for that matter, church leaders. We can create illusions about them to fulfill our own needs that they rarely live up to. For this reason, people have often chosen to wait until a person's life is over before judging whether or not this person or that person is a saint. And this is partly because death allows us to view the whole of a person's life in a context, but also because, well, to be honest, dead saints can no longer make mistakes. Of course, even death doesn't guarantee or ensure that the total truth about a person will be known. Indeed, some folk attempt to actually try to guarantee their reputations even beyond death. One of the famous of most of these is a great Christian called Cardinal Newman, a great Christian man in many ways, but he's reported when he towards the end of his life that he edited his diaries to ensure that there was nothing in that might prevent the church from making him into a saint after his death. To be honest, those who consciously seek a perfection can be a bit of a pain, can't they? Saintliness, however, is not really about being a goody two-shoes. For people who think they're holy and only too conscious of how good they are, there's a story told about a Jewish rabbi who's spending his final hours ill in bed with his disciples who were gathered around in vigil, holding whispered conversations at his bedside, extolling the man's exceptional virtues. Not since Solomon has there been one as wise as him, said one. And his faith, it's equal to that of our father Abraham, said the second. And show his patience, that patience equals that of Job, said the third. And only Moses can we find someone who conversed as intimately with God, said the fourth. However, instead of being comforted by these words, the rabbi seemed to be a bit restless. And when the disciples had gone, the rabbi's wife said to him, "Do you not hear your disciples singing your praises?" "I did," said the rabbi. "Then why are you so fretful?" said his wife. "My modesty," complained the rabbi. "No one mentioned my modesty." The truth is that every one of us has a skeleton in the cupboard. Like the rabbi, whether that's sin, of secret pride, all of us, even the best of us, have flaws. We are all sinners. So are there no perfect saints? I think there are saints, but to see them, we need to look at people in a different way. The truth is, I suspect a saint is not someone who is perfect, but is one of those who has the courage to be honest about themselves, to be humble before others, and particularly before God. Paul Cezanne, the great artist, lived in obscurity for 35 years, producing masterpieces that he gave away to his unsuspecting neighbours. So great was his love for work that he never gave a thought to achieving recognition, nor did he spend or suspect that someday he will be regarded as the father of modern painting. He became famous because a Paris art dealer chanced upon some of his paintings and put them together and presented them as the world's first Cezanne exhibition. And everybody was astonished to discover a master painter. The master was, strangely enough, just as astonished. He arrived at the gallery leaning on the arm of his son. He was amazed when he saw his paintings on display. He turned to his son. He said, "Look, they've framed them." Cezanne, the great artist, shocked that anybody could bother to put his paintings in a frame. True saints are rarely aware of their own saintliness. In fact, they're often more aware of their own weakness than anything else. Before his death at the hands of the Nazis, the German Christian Dietrich Bonhoeffer was often viewed as something of a saint by those who knew him. But that wasn't how Bonhoeffer himself saw himself. Bonhoeffer wrote a poem about his experience. It goes like this. Who am I? They often tell me that I could step from my cell's confinement calmly and cheerfully and firmly like a squire from his country house. Who am I? They often tell me I can talk to my warders freely and friendly and clearly as though they were mine to command. Who am I? They also tell me I could bear the days of misfortune equably, smilingly, proudly, like one accustomed to win. Am I really all that men tell me of? Or am I only what I know of myself? Restless and longing and sick, like a bird in a cage, struggling for breath as though hands were compressing my throat, hungry for colours, for flowers, for the voices of birds, thirsty for words of kindness, for neighbourliness, trembling with anger at despotisms and petty humiliation, caught up in expectation of great events, powerlessly grieving for friends at an infinite distance, weary and empty at praying, thinking, and naked, faint and ready to say farewell to it all. Who am I? This or the other? Am I one person today and tomorrow another? But both at once? A hypocrite before others, and before myself a contemporary woe-begone weakling? Or is there something within me still like a beaten army, flaming disorder from victory already achieved? Who am I? They mock me, these lonely questions. Whoever I am, thou knowest, O God, I am thine. What quality is it that makes a saint stand out? I think the answer is wholeness. This is the one of the amazing qualities that Christians see in Jesus. Jesus was and is whole. And most of us are wholly in the wrong way. We have great gaps or holes in our lives which we try to fill with people or things. We want and desire money or friends, to be loved, or we want better health, or whatever is most important to us. And our wants and our desires consume our thoughts and our energies, and woe betide anybody who gets in the way. The quality of the saints is that they are not consumed by any desire other than to know and share God's love, which of course they can have anywhere, anytime, even in a prison cell, which is where saints are often found. A saint is unwilling to be ruled by the things that normally rule other human beings, and often that makes them a threat to those those who want to control and manipulate others, especially if we want to use bribery and fear, because those things don't work with them. So, is sainthood a calling restricted to the bravest of the brave? I don't think necessarily so. In biblical terms, we're actually all saints. One day, we'll all be united in perfection. You and even I will be united alongside St. Francis of Assisi. This, for those of us who live normal, flawed, unspectacular lives, may seem hard to credit. We recognise our failings. We know that we're still sinners. But in the letter to the Hebrews, we are told that though we are conscious of our own weakness and our failures, we are united with the heroines and heroes of the faith. In some parts of the New Testament, ordinary living Christians are called saints, because saints, or literally holy ones, reflects what God intends us to be. Now, admittedly, we may not be very saintly now, but the seeds of saintliness are within us. Holiness or wholeness is something that God desires for us and seeks to give us. We can't earn it. We can't attain it by our own efforts. It's God's gift. We too shall be made whole. For God's love is already at work within us, blotting out the sin that pollutes our lives. At the moment, we're just like dirty windows that the light shines through, but only murkily because too much of selfishness gets in the way. Yet one day, the light will shine through pure and true. For our God's love is like spiritual window cleaner that will continue to work on us until we are made absolutely crystal clear. Amen.